Ralph Adams Cram was a prolific and influential American architect of collegiate and ecclesiastical buildings, are often in the Gothic Revival style. Cram in Amp, Ferguson and Cram, Goodhue and Amp, Ferguson are partnerships in which he worked together with an architect and artist. He is honored on December 16 as a feast day in the Episcopal Church of the United States. Cram was a Fellow of the American Institute of Architects. Early life. Cram was born on December 16, 1863 at Hampton Falls, New Hampshire to the Rev. William Augustine and Sarah Elizabeth Cram. He was educated at Augusta, Hampton Falls, Westford Academy, which he entered in 1875, and Exeter. At age 18, Cram moved to Boston in 1881 and worked for 5 years in the architectural office of Roche and Amp, Tilden, after which he left for Rome to study classical architecture. During an 1887 Christmas Eve Mass in Rome, he had a dramatic conversion experience. For the rest of his life, he practiced as a fervent Anglo-Catholic who identified as High Church Anglican. In 1900, Cram married Elizabeth Carrington Reed at New Bedford, Massachusetts. She was the daughter of Clement Carrington Reed and his wife. Reed had served as a captain in the Confederate Army during the American Civil War. Elizabeth and Ralph had 3 children: Mary Carrington Cram, Ralph Wentworth Cram and Elizabeth Strudwick Cram. The family burial site is at the St. Elizabeth's Memorial Churchyard. The churchyard is adjacent to St. Elizabeth's Chapel, which Cram designed. Career. Cram and business partner Charles Wentworth started business in Boston in April 1889 as Cram and Wentworth. They had landed only 4 or 5 church commissions before they were joined by Bertram Goodhue in 1892 to form Cram, Wentworth and Goodhue. Goodhue brought an award-winning commission in Dallas and brilliant drafting skills to the Boston office. Wentworth died in 1897 and the firm's name changed to Cram, Goodhue and Amp, Ferguson to include draftsman Frank Ferguson. Cram and Goodhue complemented each other's strengths at first but began to compete, sometimes submitting 2 differing proposals for the same commission. The firm won design of the United States Military Academy at West Point in 1902, a major milestone in their career. They set up the firm's New York office, where Goodhue would preside, leaving Cram to operate in Boston. Cram's acceptance of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine Commission in 1911 heightened the tension between the two. Architectural historians have attributed most of the projects to one partner or the other, based on the visual and compositional style, and the location. The Gothic Revival St. Thomas Church was designed by them both in 1914 on Manhattan's Fifth Avenue. It is the last example of the collaboration, and the most integrated and strongest example of their work together. Goodhue began his solo career on August 14, 1913. Cram and Ferguson continued with major church and college commissions through the 1930s. Particularly important work includes the original campus of Rice University, Houston, as well as the library and First City Hall of that city. Also notable is Cram's first church in the Boston area, All Saints, Dorchester. The successor firm is H.D.B. Cram and Ferguson of Boston, a leading proponent of disciplined Gothic Revival architecture in general and collegiate Gothic in particular. Cram is most closely associated with Princeton University, where he served as supervising architect from 1907 to 1929. During a period of major construction, the university awarded him a Doctor of Letters for his achievements. For 7 years he headed the architectural department at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Through the 1920s, Cram was a public figure and frequently mentioned in the press. The New York Times called him one of the most prominent Episcopalian laymen in the country. He made news with his defensive Al Smith during his electoral campaign, when anti-Catholic rhetoric was used, saying, "I express my disgust at the ignorance and superstition now rampant, and in order that I may go on record as another of those who, though not Roman Catholics, nevertheless Americans, and are outraged by this recrudescence of blatant bigotry, operating through the most cowardly and contemptible methods." In around 1932, he designed the Desloge Chapel in St. Louis Mo, the Gothic chapel designed to echo the contours of the Sainte-Chapelle in Paris. Desloge Chapel, which is associated with the Firmin Desloge Hospital and St. Louis University, in 1983, was declared a landmark by the Missouri Historical Society. In 1938, he was elected into the National Academy of Design as an associate academician. Cram and Modernism. As an author, lecturer, and architect, Cram propounded the view that the Renaissance had been, at least in part, an unfortunate detour for Western culture. Cram argued that authentic development could come only by returning to Gothic sources for inspiration, as his collegiate Gothic architecture did, with considerable success. For his Rice University buildings, he favored a medieval North Italian Romanesque style, more in keeping with Houston's hot, humid climate. A modernist in many ways, he designed Art Deco landmarks of great distinction, including the Federal Building skyscraper in Boston and numerous churches. For example, his design of the tower of the East Liberty Church, Pittsburgh, was inspired by the Empire State Building. His work at Rice was as modernist as medieval in inspiration. His administration building, his secular masterwork, has been compared by Chantucci to Frank Lloyd Wright's work, particularly in the way its dramatic horizontality reflects the surrounding prairies. The architectural historian Sandy Eisenstadt wrote in a review of Cram's biography that disdain turned out to be modernism's loss. Peter Cormack, director of London's William Morris Gallery, said regarding the critical neglect of Cram's work that it was a phenomenon which has significantly distorted the study of America's modern architectural history. Deserves the same kind of international and domestic recognition accorded to his contemporary Frank Lloyd Wright. Veneration. Cram is honored on December 16th as a feast day, together with the architect Richard Upjohn and artist John Lafarge, on the liturgical calendar of the Episcopal Church. Works. Cram's buildings include the Birches, Garrison, New York, 1882. Rehoboth, Chappaqua, New York, 1891 to 1892. All Saints Church, Ashmont, Massachusetts, 1892. Christ Church, 1892. Church of St. John Evangelist, St. Paul, Minnesota, 1892. Lady Chapel, Church of the Advent, Boston, Massachusetts, 1894. Richmond Court, Brookline, Massachusetts, 1896. Phillips Church, Exeter, New Hampshire, 1897. Public Library, Fall River, Massachusetts, 1899. Deborah Cook Sales Public Library, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 1899. Emmanuel Church, Newport, Rhode Island, 1900. Calvary Episcopal Church, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 1904. Holy Cross Monastery, West Park, New York, with Henry Vaughan, 1904. All Saints Chapel, Sewanee, the University of the South, Sewanee, Tennessee, began 1904, finished 1959. The Mather School, Dorchester, Massachusetts, 1905. La Santísima Trinidad Pro Cathedral, Havana, Cuba, 1905. St. Thomas Church, New York City, 1905 to 1913. First Unitarian Society in Newton, Massachusetts, 1905–1906. Many buildings at Sweetbriar College, including Mary K. Benedict Hall, Fletcher Hall, Mary Harley Student Health and Counseling Center, Mary Helen Cochran Library. Sweetbriar, Virginia, 1906–1928. St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, Denver, Colorado, 1907. Cathedral Church of St. Paul, Detroit, Michigan, 1908. Russell Sage Memorial Church, Far Rockaway, New York, 1908–1910. House of Hope Presbyterian Church, St. Paul, Minnesota, 1909–1914. St. Florian Church, Hamtramck, Michigan, 1910. Expanded by Cram, 1928. Master plan and multiple buildings at Rice University, Houston, Texas, 1910–1916. All Saints Cathedral, Halifax, Nova Scotia, 1910. Park Avenue Christian Church, NYC, 1911. Church of the Covenant in the University Circle neighborhood of Cleveland, 1911. Cathedral of St. John the Divine, New York City, begun 1912, unfinished. All Souls Congregational Church, Bangor, Maine, 1912. Remodeling of Richard Upjohn's Grace Church, Providence, Rhode Island, 1912. Masters Hall at the Masters School in Dobbs Ferry, NY, 1921. Multiple buildings at Princeton University, Princeton, New Jersey, including the 1917 Cleveland Tower, the 1928 Princeton University Chapel, Campbell Hall, McCormick Hall, and multiple buildings of the Graduate College, 1913–1927. St. Paul's Episcopal Parish, Malden, Massachusetts, begun 1913, unfinished. Photos. 4th Presbyterian Church, Michigan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 1914. Multiple buildings, including Ryland Hall, Jata Hall and North Court, all at University of Richmond, Richmond, Virginia, 1911–1914. Multiple buildings at the Phillips Exeter Academy, Exeter, New Hampshire, including the 1914 Academy Building, Nave Extension and Lady Chapel of Trinity Church, Princeton, 1914. Chapel of St. Ange, Arlington, Massachusetts, 1915. All Saints Church, California, 1916–1920. Chapel of Mercersburg Academy, Mercersburg, Pennsylvania, 1916–1928. Cole Memorial Chapel, Wheaton College, Norton, Massachusetts, 1917. Trinity Episcopal Church, Houston, Texas, 1919. St. Mark's Episcopal Pro Cathedral, Hastings, Nebraska, 1921–1929. St. James Church, Lake Delaware, New York, 1922. 2nd Presbyterian Church, 1922. Lucius Beebe Memorial Library, Wakefield, Massachusetts, 1922. The First Presbyterian Church, Tacoma, Washington, 1923. Sacred Heart Church, Jersey City, New Jersey, 1923. Buildings at the Choate School, Wallingford, P. Connecticut, 1924–1928, including St. Andrew's Chapel and Archbold Infirmary. St. James Episcopal Church, New York City, rebuilt 1924. First Presbyterian Church, Utica, New York, 1924. First Presbyterian Church, Lincoln, Nebraska, 1925–27. Julia Eidson Building of the Houston Public Library, Houston, Texas, 1926. Chapel at St. George's School, Newport, Rhode Island, 1928. Holy Rosary Roman Catholic Church, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 1928. First Presbyterian Church of Glens Falls, New York, 1928. St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Winston-Salem, NC Winston-Salem, 1928. Concordia Lutheran Church, Louisville, Kentucky, 1930. Knowles Memorial Chapel on the campuses of Rollins College, Winter Park, Florida, 1931-1932. Christ Church United Methodist, New York City, 1931-33. Chancel Brown Memorial Presbyterian Church, Baltimore, Maryland, 1931. Doheny Library, campus of the University of Southern California, Los Angeles, 1931. Bell Tower, Dwight Morrow High School, Englewood, New Jersey, 1932. St. Mary's Academy, Glens Falls, New York, 1932. Cathedral of Hope, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 1932-1935. U.S. Post Office and Courthouse aka J.W. McCormack Post Office and Courthouse, Boston, Massachusetts, 1933. Christ Episcopal Church Tower Addition, Blacksburg Historic District, Blacksburg, Virginia, 1934. Conventual Church of St. Mary and St. John, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1936. Monastery and Chapel at the Society of St. John the Evangelist, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1936. Buildings at the Aisne-Marne American Cemetery and Memorial, Belleau, France, 1937. Buildings at the Wassain American Cemetery and Memorial, Férent-Ardenois, Aisne Department, France, c. 1937. Works of the firm Cram in Amp, Ferguson, after Cram's death in 1942, include Berkeley Building, Boston, Massachusetts, 1947. Marsh Chapel of Boston University, Boston, Massachusetts, 1950. St. Luke's Methodist Church, 1950. One of the few private residences Cram designed was for the Reverend Knapp in Fall River, Massachusetts. It is designed like a Japanese pagoda, complete with a tea room. It is located at 657 Highland Avenue, Fall River. Publications. Cram wrote numerous publications and books on issues in architecture and religious devotion. Titles include Impressions of Japanese Architecture, The Baker and Amp Taylor Company, 1905. Heart of Europe, Macmillan and Amp Co. London, 1916325 PGS. The Substance of Gothic, Marshall Jones Company, Boston, 1917. Farmhouses, manor houses, minor chateaux, small churches in Normandy and Brittany. The Architectural Book Publishing Company, Paul Wenzel and Morris Crakiff, 1917. Sins of the Fathers, Marshall Jones Company, Boston, 1918. Walled Towns, Marshall Jones Company, Boston, 1919. Towards the Great Peace, Marshall Jones Company, Boston, 1922. My Life in Architecture, Little, Brown and Company, Boston, 1936. Cram also wrote fiction. A number of his stories, notably The Dead Valley, were published in a collection entitled Black Spirits and White. The collection has been called one of the undeniable classics of weird fiction. H.P. Lovecraft wrote, in The Dead Valley, the eminent architect and medievalist Ralph Adams Cram achieves a memorably potent degree of vague regional horror through subtleties of atmosphere and description. Professional memberships. Cram was a Fellow of the Boston Society of Architects, American Institute of Architects, North British Academy of Arts, Royal Geographical Society of London, American Academy of Arts and Sciences, member of the American Federation of Arts, Architectural Association of London, member of the clubs Puritan Club, Century Club,